Experts are warning that the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services needs more powers to fulfill its mandate. The watchdog's job is to inspect, investigate, report and make recommendations on the living conditions at prisons. But it is facing many challenges, including a lack of resources and unbinding recommendations. Let's get you some analysis and some insight. We're joined this morning by the inspecting judge at the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services. Justice Edwin Cameron joins us via our video link this morning. Justice Cameron, always great to have you on the program. Thanks very much for coming on. You know, I suppose this discussion around the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Services is timely for many reasons. The release of the crime statistics, I think it was just earlier this month, the discussions around Janus Valush and his parole, the fact that he was stabbed in prison just yesterday. It's timely for a whole range of reasons. Why did you choose now as this opportunity for you to write this opinion piece?
Michelle, thank you very much. It's very nice to be with you and with Newzroom Afrika's viewers. First of all, the struggle of JICS goes back to when it was created in the Mandela era, which is a complete innovation, a novelty to have a judge-headed inspectorate checking on what is happening in our prisons. But it was created with too few powers. So there's now a process to make JICS more independent and more powerful. That process has stalled because we've been struggling with Treasury to get enough funds to become really independent. The Constitutional Court 2 years ago ruled that JICS has to be autonomous and independent. And with the help of the minister, with the help of the department, they've all been supportive. We've been trying to fix that. And together with that, there's going to be a statute before Parliament next year that gives JICS proper powers. It expands its powers, what has to be reported to it, what the department must do when we make recommendations and findings. We're going to beef up our powers in that respect too. But I wrote, to answer your question, Michelle, I wrote that piece, which was submitted for publication late last week, before the present controversies. But you're right. All of this is accentuated simply because the question of crime, prisoners, management of prisoners, parole is always such a pressing issue.
Yeah. I wonder, you know, for people who are listening to this interview this morning, Justice Cameron, to think about the importance of humane treatment of prisoners might be a bitter pill for them to swallow, right? Given the fact that we've, as you say in your article, we've had no abatement of crime over the longer term. Advocating for prisoners and for the perpetrators of these crimes might be a difficult pill for them to swallow. But why is this an important issue? And I suppose it speaks to, you know, these people are incarcerated, but they may well one day be paroled. And what then?
It's a wonderful question, Michelle, and there are a number of reasons. The first, of course, is the heart reason. And heart reasons do count because we committed ourselves with our hearts in the constitutional era to having a decent society. And our constitution promises prisoners conditions consistent with human dignity. So that's the first reason. The second reason is the one that you give, which is that this idea of lock them up and throw away the key doesn't exist. Our prisons are permeable. The walls don't operate as seal outs and seal ins. There's traffic every day. There are prisoners released every day, as you've just pointed out. So how we treat our prisoners and how we rehabilitate them, how we give them a second chance is vitally important to you and to me and all of your viewers. But the third reason, Michelle, which I'd like to raise is that what has really happened in our beautiful democracy is that we have gone terribly wrong in crime management. And of course, prisons are part of crime management, but the whole strategy is catastrophically wrong. We cannot reduce murder, rape, other violent crimes, all forms of crime by locking up a small number of people forever. We're trying to do that. What we have to do is to fix up crime intelligence, which President Zuma's presidency wrecked. We've got to fix up the NPA, which they're still struggling to do valiantly. Advocate Shamila Batoy and the Minister, I might say that Minister Lamola is absolutely on the side of strengthening the administration of justice. But those are the keys. You've got to know why the Zamazamas are operating, why the copper cables are being stolen, why the theft of scrap metal is occurring, why the cash and transit heists. And for that, you need crime intelligence. Now, under President Zuma, crime intelligence was comprehensively wrecked. It's still not operating properly. Now, instead of that, we are trying to solve our crime problem through long sentences on a small number of people. And it's all been a catastrophe. So it's a long answer, Michelle, but it's a good question. That's why it matters.
Yeah, it's certainly a complicated issue. I wonder if we can take a step back, Justice Cameron, and if you can outline for us what powers does JICS need that it currently doesn't have to play its part in the framework that you've just outlined that we need for fighting crime in our country?
Well, the first is that we need cooperation. And at the moment, we don't get cooperation. We understand that the NPA is desperately overstretched. We understand that the SAPS is overstretched, but there are also elementary organizational issues in the SAPS, which also was trashed during the Zuma era. So there are real difficulties in getting accountability in the prisons. But going back the step, as you say, we do need, the new statute increases the circle of items that have to be reported to JICS. At the moment, deaths, when prisoners are put in chains, when they're isolated, and use of force have to be reported to us. But we're now going to add to that sexual assaults. But the most important thing is this question of accountability. At the moment, we make a recommendation, and Commissioner Makoti Tobakale, like his predecessors, say, yes, we will listen to you, JICS. But there's no statutory constraint. The new statute for next year will make the prisons department either follow what we say, the recommendations and findings. If we say discipline personnel member X, Y, and Z, they either have to do it or they have to give us reasons why not. Now, that will be a big step forward. But that still leaves the difficulties. How do you get there? For example, Newzroom Afrika covered a terrible assault in Brandvlei prison some years ago where dogs were set upon two prisoners who died. Now, we've got videos of that. They've still not been prosecuted. So the prosecution, the police taking statements, the NPA taking over the docket and pursuing it, all of that has still got to be fixed up.
Yeah. Justice Cameron, would you, Ayanda and I, my co-anchor, were discussing your interview just before we came on air. Would you liken JICS to IPID, what IPID is for the SAPS?
Very much so. We're part of a clutch of independent, supposedly independent organizations which have oversight. There's also a military ombudsman watchdog, there's a health watchdog, and IPID is very similar.
And then as we round off our discussion, and again, try to bring to our viewers the importance of a body like JICS. You know, we've talked about the importance of rehabilitation, and under the current system, there's really no chance of meaningful rehabilitation for the great majority of people who are in prison. It feeds into issues of gangsterism in areas like the Western Cape. That's an ongoing problem there. But also, Justice Cameron, if perhaps you're wondering why this is important, there's a great many people who are in prison and are not guilty, those who are awaiting trial, for example.
I'm glad you raised that, Michelle. We have the highest number of incarcerated persons anywhere in Africa and the 12th highest in the world. We are doing so many things so desperately wrong. Let me give you an example, if I may. I know our time is running out. Malawi, population of 15 million, has got 18,000 prisoners. We have got 150,000 prisoners, of whom, as you've just pointed out, 1/3, 50,000 are awaiting trial.
Sure.
So it indicates a profound malaise. One more figure for your viewers this morning, which I hope will strike home. 1995, we are a fresh, new constitutional democracy. How many people serving life sentences? 400. 2022, how many people serving life sentences? 18,000. And that at a time when only 22% of murders are effectively prosecuted, meaning almost 4 out of 5 murders are not effectively prosecuted. So all of that to say our whole chain of administration of justice can be improved. Nothing we are asking for in JICS cannot be fixed. Nothing in the NPA. Advocate Batoy is doing that right now, and I saw General Labia on television last night. They're fixing it in the Hawks and the police as well, but it's a long process. But while that long process occurs, we've got to fix our prisons as well. That's what we are pleading for.
Justice Edwin Cameron, it's always such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming onto the program this morning. The Prisons Inspectorate frustrated by lack of sufficient powers to carry out the work that it's mandated to do. It's coming up for 10 to 8.